3, 2, 1, action. Welcome to Hóčhoka Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to Hóčhoka here at St. Joseph's Indian School here on our campus. I'm today's host, Mike Tyrell, the president of St. Joseph's Indian School. And today I want to turn the tables on one of our hosts to learn more about what he thinks listeners will hear in the weeks and months to come. Scott, it's fun to see you in the guest chair. Trust me, it's good to put you there. This is a temporary thing, and I won't be quitting my day job in the meantime. But I want to ask you, Scott, what do you think positions you to be in a position to be our voice of our podcasts here?
Well, that's a good question, Mike, and thanks for having me here today. What positions me to be here is one day I was walking down the street across campus, and Claire Wilrod drove by in her car, and she rolled down the window and said, "Hey, what do you think about hosting some podcasts maybe?" And I said, "Well, sure, that seems like a good thing." And I have a day job too, and they haven't let me quit that either, so I'm still doing the day job. But came in and had a conversation with Claire and with Paul, and sounded like a lot of fun, sounded like there was going to be an opportunity to learn things, to have good conversations, and I was on board. I'm always a gamer.
Sounds good. You know, a lot of our decisions here at St. Joe's are made when people roll down their windows and ask you questions.
Right? Yeah.
So that's the way it usually goes.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about what do you see upcoming in future podcasts? What are you looking at?
Well, I think
for the season upcoming.
Yeah, I think it'll be an exciting season. So during the fall, we were able to come in and we were able to do podcasts with a variety of guests, some that are from St. Joe's Indian School and some outside guests. We had Jenny Schilling on. She is the dean of, what do we call it now, dean of students, or the kind of like in my day, the vice principal over in the school. And Jenny has done a tremendous job of helping kids when they are beginning to not see things clearly, behaviorally maybe in the classroom or emotionally, and trying to help them get through that. And Jenny came on a podcast and did a great job of sharing her secrets and what she does. Krista Lepkowski helps with our transition for our high school kids when they go on to college or technical schools or the military. And Krista does a fantastic job with those kids. So she came on and she gave some of her secrets and some hints at what worked best with her to help secure a good future for those kids. I did actually 6 sessions with Joseph Marshall, who is an author, actor, just an all-around good guy. He's an elder in the community, and Joseph came on and had some great ideas about how kids could find their cultural identity in a pretty tricky world, and talked about how kids need to look to their past to figure out where they're headed with things. My wife came on. She teaches Native American Studies, as you know, here on campus, and she had a lot of the same story as Joseph might. How do you nurture that cultural identity in the students that you have when they're, first through 12th grade? And she told a little bit of her story as far as how she got to be here and how she found her own cultural identity too. And then we had Damian Costello come on, and he was here for a conference earlier in the fall on primarily, I'm oversimplifying, but on the marriage of the Catholic faith and Lakota values and virtues and culture and that type of thing. And I thought Damian had some really interesting things that he had to talk about with the Catholic presence going all the way back to pre-boarding schools and in the time of Black Elk. And then he's actually a Black Elk scholar, so he was able to talk about some of that too in his talk with me. And they were all very, very fascinating, I thought. So I think our viewers have some things to look forward to.
Wow, what a powerful lineup. So we're doing things a little backwards today. I wanted to also give a little rationale for our reason for our podcasts here. So our strategic plan, which we've been working on for the last year and a half or so, speaks to us about being national leaders in advancing the lives of Native Americans. And within that is this idea now that we do some wonderful things here on campus at St. Joe's, and also we are blessed with the presence of a number of really important and unique people that come to our campus. So I think it's important to us to, based on the strategic plan, to get our word out. And so as we were looking for different ways to do that, different mediums, the idea of podcasts came up. And it speaks to kind of the new way to communicate things. And it also is very timely in terms of the type of information you can get out, how you get it out in today's technological society. So we are very excited about this whole idea of podcasts here. Even the uniqueness of our studio here is right in the center of campus, and that's kind of a neat thing. And I think it speaks to us now speaking out, getting the word out, taking the time to tell people what the unique things that are happening here. So as you explain the various topics here, it's really actually pretty heartening to me. It excites me because I think we're in a position to talk about a very rich and beautiful culture that speaks to the mission of St. Joe's, and getting that word out is, we're called to do that. It's part of our work here. And I think somebody like yourself who's been here a long time can speak to it. What you've seen, experienced here, fills in some of the background for our questioning of the people here and the work we do here. There's Central South Dakota, small place here in Chamberlain, South Dakota, yet the services that come out of St. Joe's are quality and unique. And so we're always talking, like one example is our wraparound services. I think we do that as well as anybody. And in doing that, not only does our population and our families deserve those services, I think it now speaks to the idea that we can actually talk about those with other organizations and share, find out what other places are doing, and then reciprocate, and everybody wins in that situation. But we have to figure out a way to get the word out. The podcast idea is it's current, and it works very well to do that. So
Absolutely.
Very excited. And then as you put yourself out there, as I use the word reciprocate, you hear other things and you advance yourself moving forward. And I think that's what we try and do that's unique to St. Joe's. We don't just sit here on our laurels. We always try and do better because our population deserves it. Our families demand it, and they deserve that. And so we do have a history of not only resiliency, but a history of trying to improve ourselves, trying to get better. And so in the end, I think everybody benefits from it, from our students' families, and then even our supporters appreciate that we're trying to better ourselves, trying to better the population we serve.
Yeah,
So,
couldn't agree more.
yeah. Okay, Scott, in hosting this year, and I know that you're a novice to this, but I heard every podcast you're going to improve or have been improving. So tell us, are you going to be working with one of our former students in doing this?
I am. Hope McCloskey is a former student, and it has been a treat to work with Hope because I knew her when she was a student. She came in 6th or 7th grade or somewhere, her junior high years. And Hope she's just a ray of sunshine. She's just a great kid. And I've watched her grow into a young woman and find direction. And she's at Augustana College right now and getting ready to graduate, hopefully at the end of the 2022 spring semester. But even more than that, I know Hope, I am a part of a family, Sundance family that comes from Rosebud, and Hope is a part of that family too. So I consider Hope to be a family member, and to get to sit with her and interview Joseph Marshall about his books and about his stories and all that was just a real good time.
A former student helping us to look towards the future to get the word out about our work. And
Absolutely.
I also want to mention your family, Scott. That Woster name seems to be all over this state, particularly in the newspaper, media, and other ways. Can you give us a little of your family history?
Sure, I'll give you a little sketch here. My grandpa had a farm just across the river behind me here in Lyman County. That's where my dad grew up, my two uncles and their two sisters, my aunties. And nobody really nobody really took to the farming, ranching thing when they were young of that generation. They decided it was a lot of work, and there was not a very defined future in it necessarily. So they all took that and decided to delve into media one way or another and write romantic stories about it while they didn't have to do it. And it turned out to be wildly successful, at least within the borders of this state. Some of them got to be pretty well known. Jim has been on TV, did the ag markets, was big with the Sioux Falls Stockyard, but he has also written for most of his life. My dad is a journalist. He's covered legislature and news stories in South Dakota, but he does columns as well. My Uncle Kevin also did the same kinds of things, journalism and columns, and at the end of his career, he went on KELOLAND, and he was a news reporter for KELOLAND, and as he said, he has a face made for radio. He's like a Lyman County gravel road after a rainstorm, and so he wasn't sure he should be on TV. But they're all gamers, and my aunt has also written a couple of books and taught at South Dakota State and does the literature thing. But one big thing with that whole family is storytelling was always a big deal. So even when they were on the farm, they were all encouraged to read, they were all encouraged to write, and they were all encouraged to use their imagination. And what do you get from that? You get great stories. And so I don't know what I look like on camera. I don't worry about it too much. I try not to watch too much of me when I'm done with it, but I love to tell stories. I love to make up stories if I don't have one that might be true. And I like to listen to stories, and I came by it honestly, I guess.
So 2 thoughts. Number one, we're perpetuating the family business. So
let's do it, yeah.
It's good for St. Joe's and good for all of us.
Yeah.
And number two, there's a lot of camaraderie of the staff. We've been here a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think all of us have read a story or two about your dad kind of putting you in your place in one of his columns. So
right.
Sometimes they weren't always very flattering,
well,
but
facts.
very funny.
Facts get in the way of a good story. It happens.
So I hope you always had your consent on those stories.
Not always.
Scott, once again, thank you. That was great to have time with you today to talk.
Mm-hmm.
Here at the center of our campus at St. Joseph's Indian School, where we talk about issues central to Native Americans today. Until next time, stay centered.